Hi, this is Sinta Ebersohn from Fair Divorce, and today we're going to have a very interesting conversation about sexual health. The 4th of September is World Sexual Health Day, and with me is Cheryl Reum to discuss the topic and explore a couple of things about it in terms of relationships that don't work, that end in separation or divorce, and wherever the conversation takes us. Cheryl, thank you very much for being here and welcome.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me online. I'm happy to share a life stories.
Yes, fantastic. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, and whatever you're comfortable with. I'm thinking from my own point of view, I'm 53 now and going through menopause, and I've been sexually active for 30 odd years. And okay, if you've been going 53 minus 30 might be, I'll tell you, I was a mere teenager when I became sexually active. And looking back with the benefit of hindsight, I have a wonderful, colorful story to tell about how that developed and how I grew and how I learned through the relationships and all of that. So please tell us, what's your story?
Okay, in that particular context, it's always a fascinating one to be able to draw on it. And I'm from the furthest spectrum, in the fourth quarter of the apple, as they call it. Mm-hmm. And it's been a life that I have enjoyed with quite a lot of interesting aspects attendant to it. I am 69 now, a very good age for this particular conversation.
Fantastic. Yes. Perfect, actually.
Started, born in 1952, the same year as Barbie, and I think she kept her figure very well, and I'm happy to say that along the line 3 years ago I lost 35 kg, so I've resumed mine. That's actually quite an interesting part of this conversation. I'd like to bring it up a little bit if I may too. I got married at 23 after a couple of boyfriends here and there. I fell in lust with my husband, and we were married for 38 years. He passed 5 years ago, actually, 5 or 6 years ago now. And a year before he died, 2 years before he died, I actually did divorce him. So I'm a divorced widow, which is a fairly unique area to be in. Mm-hmm. Since then, a number of partners, and I look on the 90-day criteria. I read a lovely book called How to Act Like a Lady and Think Like a Man.
Yes.
So you do that. So you look at a 30 days no cookie, and then you maximum 90 days, because by then you know whether the relationship is going to be available or not. Having said that, I've never followed it really, except for once. Mm-hmm. So if I like somebody or I find them sexually attractive, I personally have no issue with jumping into the relationship. Almost. I think it's absolutely imperative as a woman who is holistic in self. We are not just sexual, we are beautiful. We have so many different auspices within ourselves and aspects of ourselves. And I think the one area that if we need to keep very, very vibrant and alert is our sexuality.
Yes.
Most definitely. I know numerous other women in my kind of situation who've said, well, once they get divorced or they are widowed, that they couldn't have another man touching them. Well, then touch yourself. Self-pleasuring is one of the best things you can do for yourself. It keeps your endocrine system running. I've got 4 toys. 2 of them are battery operated and 2 are not. Having said nothing real thing.
That's true. Yes, agreed.
And then, of course, there's another very, very fascinating and a really good area that I've recently realized is not just a me thing, but it's a general thing that's available to everybody, and that is actually to be able to have energy orgasms. Mm-hmm.
Do you have to tell us more about that?
Okay, this comes from within. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's a way whereby your whole body is involved. It is not genital only, but it can be inspired by touching, by holding, by embracing with a person you're finding attractive, that person you find have a vibe. And then you can bring yourself to an orgasmic state just in terms of the energies that have been exchanged from your own and it's quite big at the moment. It's become a little bit of a buzzword in energetic orgasm, but it's available to everybody and anybody. And in that way, everybody can engage, indulge, and have this available to themselves. I'd like to also bring, there's so many aspects of this that one brings to bear. I mean, sexuality and sensuality hold so much shame for us women very often.
Yes.
Back to childhood, don't touch yourself, you dirty little girl, or the nuns or whoever, where the authoritative person was saying, that is not godly, it's a sin to touch yourself. Actually not. I beg to differ. And it's very fascinating too, in the sense of as you meet different partners through your life, going on from that very life-changing part of your journey, you do come across different personalities and people, and they're going to try and impact and put onto you their belief systems and their stuff. So if I have one nugget of absolute certainty to impart to every single woman hearing this or listening to this, is it's your body. True. And what you with and for, and how much of it you want to give away, how much of it you want to be juicy, how much of it you want to retain, is entirely yours.
Definitely. It's entirely up to you. Yeah.
Entirely up. But the one, what I like to also say, it's not about what you look like. It's not about your size. I know there's a lot of thought that, well, if you've been with a husband or a partner for very many long years, and then you're on your own now, what about my saggy boobs and my stretch marks and whatever else you think you've got?
Yes.
The truth of that is this day is the best day your body's going to look until you don't inhabit it any longer.
That's very true, yeah.
So it makes sense to enjoy it. And quite honestly, I have yet to find a man who has ever made comment or said, oh, well, you know, I don't know about this so much. I'd really love to continue making love to you, but I have this problem because your one breast is sort of disappearing a little bit to the west and the other one is gone east.
Yeah. You're stretching off just a bit too much or something, hey? Men don't really care about it. Well, most men don't.
They don't. They do care about the fact that they're in a moment of body bliss. That is the focus, and that is the getting together of the intimacy of that moment with a woman that they've engaged with either for a little while, or it can be just an immediacy thing. Yes. And it's chemistry's working. So why? No purpose, there is no need to say, no, I'm going to get shy, I'm not going to indulge, I don't want to have sex with this person, it's not going to serve me, it's manipulative. All of that can apply if you are doing that for yourself. But don't let it be put upon you, rather let it come from a point of what is your sexuality and your own sensuality and your own self saying about this moment in time with this body in the bed with you or with your own body in the bed with you.
Yes, and own what you have. And the thing is, the beauty and the sensuality or the sex appeal is in how you carry yourself and how you feel about yourself, because that's the energy that you give out, that you put out there and that surrounds you, right? Yes.
Exactly.
So pardon? Please go ahead.
As I mentioned, I shifted a lot of weight. I shifted 35 kilograms 3 years ago. And I had a bet with somebody to go on a cruise and I wanted to win the bet. So I said, okay, fine, I'm going to lose 10, and I lost 35. And it's been fantastic. I've kept it off and I feel amazing. But before that, woman, I weighed 105 kilograms and I'm 163 centimeters. So I was not a skinny, pretty little wafy type of woman who had it all like together like that. I was a big lady. And even so, I never lacked for admirers or people or, you know, somebody looking at me. And I didn't feel bad about my own body because I felt it's a body I've got and it's all fully functioning. It's juicy. it works, and it's pleasure. So I'm happy to have the body I've got.
Yes, of course. We need to get to that point. So many women are not. I'm thinking of where I deal with people who are going through separation or divorce, when the relationship has broken down. Examples that come to mind, for example, is when a husband or a lover, or especially for women, has been unfaithful, or has entered into a relationship with another woman who's 25 years younger than you are. And then they sit with all kinds of doubt and self-worth problems and all those sort of things. What do you say about that? What's your experience of that?
Experience with that is, I was in a relationship with my husband, and very sadly it was a relationship that I came back into, and I disclosed to him that I'd had a situation in my youth of molestation, and he turned away from me. So for 6 years I had no intimacy with him. And it was something that I found incredibly difficult to live with, because being warm, being willing, being available, being everything I am, I found that almost worse than death. sounds
yes.
Because there was such a big chunk of who I am as a woman that wasn't being nurtured and wasn't being looked out for. And although I really did try to make the relationship work, and I kept on getting, it's not you, it's me, and all this type of thing. And as it would happen, another person stepped into the breach, because always where there's a void, nature will supply an infilling. And I did meet another man, and he was a catalyst for the break in the marriage. And unfortunately, he didn't stay in this country. He was not a South African. He came from another country abroad, and he came out here for 3 months, and we tried to see if we could put it together. But unfortunately, that did not happen, and therefore that was the end of the actual relationship. But having said that, I don't for one moment believe that you should be threatened by the fact that your spouse, partner, or whoever has reached out to another body, be they younger, older, or of another sex, because it's their stuff.
True.
And it really is their stuff. It's not yours. And it's not flippant when I say this. It took me a while, and I did have issues with it myself that I worked through, feeling guilty about the fact that possibly it was something I had done or not done, that it caused the situation to transpire. And ultimately it wasn't, that I found the reason why, and it had nothing to do with me at all. And it was a very, very, very profound lesson, because we hold ourselves responsible, accountable, and everything else, and it's actually got nothing to do with us. And it's almost, I can say, quite narcissistic of ourselves to think it's all about me, because sometimes it's really not. And nothing you're doing is wrong or shortcoming in the relationship, but that person, for whatever reason, has decided to move on. And if they have moved on out of your life, they've moved on for a very good reason. And you either decide to let it go and accept it, and then fall in love with yourself and the next person along your journey, or you reconcile, which is not impossible to do given the EQ of the people. I do definitely try to have counseling if you possibly can, but only if both parties do want to have it. But if you pass that and you've gone into the separation or you've gone into the divorce mode, then I would say end it. Very, very important. End it. Because even in a non-reconciled relationship, if you're still holding into it, you still are bound into it in the ways of intimacy, of connection, and women particularly are. So take that break, either divorce fully, or if it's a separation that has been a decision to give it a period of time, then genuinely give it the period of time, and then agree you are they going to have an open understanding to be intimate with others during that period, or alternatively, then you say, no, look, we're going to remain faithful in terms of sexuality, but that doesn't deny you self-pleasuring either. So It's never about you. It's always about the other person.
It's interesting that you say that, and it's so important to realize that it's not about us, because it's not because of the way I look that my partner is attracted to somebody else. I find also something that I've seen quite often, and this is also an interesting thing that I'd love to discuss with you, is when we as women have children, our bodies change and it goes through all kinds of changes, and it's never the same as it was before. And that in itself has a huge impact on our own sexuality and how our bodies feel and how we feel about our bodies. And I'm thinking of my own situation, for example, also being so big and highly pregnant and uncomfortable. I didn't feel sexy at all, you know. And even after the children were born, breastfeeding for so long, it's like an invasion of your body in a way. And at the same time, it's so rewarding and such a bonding experience. It's absolutely beautiful. But it does have an influence on your sexuality. And it's almost as if a woman has to emerge from that phase. And of course, every woman's timing with that is different. But it's, you know, emerging from that and getting back to a new, possibly a new regenerated or recreated sexuality after that time.
I think too, sensuality is different from sexuality, in that sensuality is something, it comes from an energetic source. In the sexuality can be more bodily projected in terms of what is really there. But if you think about it, if you haven't got a womb, or if you haven't got ovaries, or if you haven't got breasts, or if you haven't got any of those bits and pieces, that is not where your sensuality is seated. Like the same as in a male, it's right here.
Yes.
It's right here in your mind and in your eye. And don't forget as well that as we age, as women, men are aging as well. And, you know, if you take on, as I say, I'm 69 now. If I was to take on a 40-year-old man, I'd have an amazing amount of erections from him. But would I have that same endurance of the sex act or the intimacy of the time frame to be able to make love? Another question. So we're very well suited often in the times that we find the partner who is more adapt to our bodies. I mean, a man of 70 who's going to go off with a 25-year-old woman, who he's not going to be able to match her sexuality at all. He might be able to match her sensuality depending, but it's unlikely without being enhanced from products, you know, erectile systems.
Yes.
And then it's also, I often say I've got the Lazarus effect. And the Lazarus effect is simply making a man feel like a man. So even if they're older, they can be re-raised to buoyancy and enthusiasm by the mere fact of a woman wanting them. So it's mind and its body. It's not just the one or the other, but nothing is as intoxicating as being in a relationship with somebody where you have that click. It's a chemistry click.
Yes.
What do the kids call it? All kinds of different things, you know. But it's you've either got it or you haven't got that. It's like walking into a patisserie and you see all of these wonderful, wonderful things on offer there. These cakes and pastries and breads and whatever's, and the one is going to call you in.
Yes.
And that's the going to get all your attention, and you're going to embrace it and enjoy it and indulge it and have an oral satisfaction out of it that bars none.
And the juices flow.
Yeah.
When it happens, it happens. And it hasn't been said for centuries that it's all in the mind, actually, because the mind plays such a huge role in it. So coming out of relationships, because that's what I work with every day, with people that go through relationships that end. And once a relationship is broken down, it's accompanied by either a complete lack of intimacy or not enough, or even horrible sex, as I've had some people complain. And it's one of the primary reasons for divorce, actually, is the lack of intimacy. And there's so many reasons for it. But coming out of that, when I almost want to say that come through a barren period where you have not connected closely with somebody, where you have not been intimate by the time you separate or by the time you divorce, how would you advise women and men, for example, who've come out of that, to not take that too personally, to just see it for what it is, maybe, and to just tap back into and reconnect back in with themselves, to just be sexually healthy and spontaneous, and not carry baggage with as a result of that?
It's a tricky one. That's a hard one, because it depends on what the play out is between the people, between the individuals who are in that space. If it's a control zone, it's going to make it really difficult for the woman, because she feels controlled by her body and by her output of her physical attributes of her sexuality, then of the male, particularly when he is in ownership of her. In other words, if he's the protector, provider, and he's giving her the home and the car and the goods and the whatever, and she's in a barter zone. She's giving sex for being looked after. And I mean, that's very crass and base, but some men do look at it in that very simplistic way.
True.
Gone into that zone, it's toxic, and it becomes very, very negative to actually stay and engage any further. There, I would definitely say that every individual, their body is their own, be it a male, be it a female, and it's not on demand. It's never on demand, not for any reason and not for any trade-off. Because you come into the zone of your primal essence and source and energetic zones. Those are actually what motivates you as a person, both in the procreative and in the creative zone, because sexual energy is exceptionally creative. And if you display it like that in a space that is basically like drawing a big black crayon on a piece of white sheet, and nothing as positive is coming out of it, you are damaging yourself with every act that follows. So I would say that you're in a separation zone, or if you're talking divorce, or if you're talking relationship rehabilitation, I would actually suggest abstinence for a while, to take that out of the equation completely and bring it back to a conversation, and then start again with affectionate zone, you know, hold a hand, a kiss on the cheek, good night, little acts of service, and bring it back almost back to the courting zone. I know an old-fashioned word, but it's one that will then bring back those little feelings of, is there any affection, is there any love left here, or has it devolved back into a, I own you, you put out for me, I'm going to give you sex if you give this to me. Yes.
And it sometimes turns into a real tit for tat situation, which is toxic in its own. Hey,
going shopping at the cheapest possible store. It's horrible.
As I listened to you, what came up for me was how some people actually literally withhold sex as a bargaining tool. I've seen that often in relationships, and that's a big complaint. That's quite common.
Yes. Yes. And that's when men go wandering. It's not something that you barter with in that context at all, because basically it's something that should be given with passion, with generosity and desire. And that's what I say, when there's desire to give somebody else pleasure, then the pleasure that you get back is tenfold. It's the same as any gifting that is given begrudgingly, and how very nominalizing is it for the individual when they actually cannot hold themselves that valuable, that those juices of theirs and that life force of theirs is so meaningless and so little value that I'm going to give it to you for a barter tool, for this is our small change, this is how we getting things together in our marriage, in our relationship. That is not communication, and that is not relationship.
No, I agree with you. And I'm also thinking, what happens if you really just not attracted to somebody anymore that you're in a relationship with, or in a marriage where you've kind of committed, and you just don't desire that person anymore? The chemistry is gone. Do you think one can revive that, get that back, or once it's gone, it's over?
No, I don't think it's over, because if it attracted you at one stage and it was there, then it can be rekindled. I do believe that with the right conditions. But again, then you need to go back to base. And then you need to go back to the early stages of your relationship together, and then do the things that drew you together initially. Start having a date night, start having a night without the children. Sit down and talk to each other, for heaven's sake. Put your cell phone down, laptop down, put your smartphone down, and get together and actually communicate eye to eye, belly to belly, and start to really, really talk to each other. And I think, Sinta, there's a very big thing here. I mean, I'm of the older generation, and I actually had a situation whereby I actually, 18 months ago, my daughter came home from overseas, and she's now 33, and I sat down with her and I told her my life. Good, bad, ugly, the whole thing. And she was very shocked, because we don't know what anybody has ever experienced. And we don't know what our parents have experienced. We don't know what our fathers as men or mothers as women have experienced. And sex is never spoken about, as we know. It's only in this generation now that it's becoming more open, and it gets more bandied about now and whatever. But are we really, really talking? Are we really, really opening up? And all those experiences of our life that have been worked through and gone through and endured, or have been enjoyed, we haven't shared them. They don't know the people in our lives, and our own husbands and spouses and partners know. So how can they begin to know what pleases, what presses buttons, where's the joy, where's the displeasure, where's the I'm not going there. And it's a candidness of communication that needs to be worked on more than sex.
But also,
to follow.
Yes, I agree with you. There's a wider understanding of ourselves as people, as persons, about our needs and our boundaries, and where we feel safe and where we feel unsafe, and a load of other things as well. It's very interesting. Very
back
interesting.
Relationship again, doing exactly the same thing.
And yes, if we come out of a relationship and we don't learn from our mistakes and gain new experience, we repeat them. Hey, we don't do better. We don't do better the next time.
I don't ever call it a mistake, Sinta. Nothing is ever a mistake. It's more an experience of learning. It's a, wow, okay, that's an illuminating moment. Yes.
No, true. That's a good way to look at it anyway. So here's a question. As far as lovers are concerned, we have, I'm sure everybody has their own experiences, but having a lover that's considerably older compared to having a lover that's considerably younger, what is your experience with that? How does it differ? What is it like? If I think for myself, for example, having a lover that's much older is quite a different dynamic. Being younger and still more vibrant and more energetic and more beautiful and literally admired and adored for the youth and everything that comes with it. And if the roles are reversed, it's probably something similar with,
Well, I can only speak from the feminine perspective. I can't speak from the male perspective, obviously. And the younger lover was my husband, basically, and when I was a younger woman. But now, having said that, as I think as a younger lover, you're more engaged in the sexual act, and you're not actually as cognizant of the woman and her needs. I'm talking now how a woman feels in relation to having the advances of a male in her life.
Yes.
So it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and then let's get on with it type thing. But now as a mature woman, I mean, I can easily have 7 orgasms in one session. Because of the fact that you actually teach your lover now. You actually say, listen, this is what I want. This is where it's nice. This is where's my G-spot. This is what feels good. This is where I want to be touched. I like that touching. Thank you very much indeed. This does it for me. That doesn't do it for me. So we become the teachers. We should become the teachers. And if you don't take that opportunity to do that, you're cutting yourself short very, very badly, because men have got more time, endurance, interest in the women in the later years, because they also there's no often no fear of pregnancy, you know, after 40,
yes,
whatever,
that's true.
right? And the kids are not there, and they have more time and energy. And men can go on having extreme intimacy into their 80s, for that matter, you know, and so can women. So I think my viewpoint is that basically an erect phallus is not sex.
Yes, true.
And then tantric today is so amazing as well, because as I say, that energetic orgasm can come to the fore as well, so very well. And the mechanics of it are, your physiology stays as vibrant and juicy as young as you keep your endocrine system rolling. If you're going to abstain and never have anything and never have any thought of sex or stay away from it completely, you'll dry out. Put it candidly.
One of my favorite things that I read when I did some research about menopause is a woman in the UK who said, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that just stays with me, and that's literally what it is. I think especially for women in menopause, but in general, if you don't use it, you lose it. And there's a fitness also. There's a sexual, shall we call it a fitness, that one has to sustain a health and a fitness.
And also, I mean, I had a hysterectomy at 40. So a long, long, long time ago, it was a medical needs hysterectomy. I have had one child at 36, and after 14 years of nothing, and she just didn't arrive. And then she thought, well, here she comes. So I had my beautiful daughter, and I'm very grateful to have her. And then at 40, I had to have a hysterectomy. I still have my fallopian tubes, or whatever they call them. And I've never taken HRT. I never went through menopause of any kind, because I was too busy doing life. And here I am. I'm now at this age. I had a heart attack 18 months ago.
Goodness.
And I've never, or sexier.
Isn't that wonderful?
Fantastic.
Absolutely wonderful. That's why you are here having this conversation with me. You're the perfect person for today.
Absolutely. I am blushing.
Good for you. Sexual health. It's such a topic that in some cultures are still literally taboo. And in some other cultures, it's just like talking about the weather or what you're going to do the next day. And I'm so grateful that I grew up in a culture where conversation about it was comfortable and spontaneous, and just something that it was welcomed. Questions and discovery and curiosity about it was welcomed. I wonder how it must be for women who don't have that. I've dealt with many women who've been in 20-year marriages, for example, and actually never had an orgasm because she was literally doing her duty or doing it for her husband. Or I remember my own grandmother told me when I was an 18-year-old young woman, she told me that sex is a horrible thing, but it's one of those things you have to do for your husband. And I remember thinking at the time, oh my goodness, I feel so sorry for you. And she's passed away since, and I still wonder sometimes if she ever even had an orgasm or even knows what it means. And it's so sad, actually.
Well, more or less what I was saying about the zones of time. You know, my gran also said, just lie back and pretend you're enjoying it. Yes. And then I didn't really know what her life was. She met my dad when she was 16 and she was married to him, and he died at 52. She died at 80. She never had another man in her life, wasn't at all interested. We don't know about those generations, but we've got the joy and the knowledge and the EQ within this generation now to find out, to educate ourselves, to be aware, to be outspoken, to be able to speak about it, to be able to say, you know what, I like sex. Not a problem.
It's great. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And incidentally, if you're wondering, I'm going to drop some links and resources with this video in the comments below when we publish it. So look out for those. Can we take a step back and see if we can say something meaningful to men about sexual health? I know we're both women, how would you advise or support or help a man thinking about sexual health? What would you say?
I would say that men actually, quite interestingly, I've discovered along my little journey here, also is that men are actually even shyer, even more shamed, even less able to talk than we are.
Yes.
So I would say we need to take the lead. The communication lead, most definitely. Not getting ourselves up there in ropes and chains and bustiers and commanding them, but more a question of a loving, leading knowledge, to be empowered by knowledge, to know about, the fact that they don't have the potency as they get older, of erectile function, and to be gentle with it, and to be
Yes.
commanding, and just have all that. I mean, for instance, just to be very graphic, when a woman is ready, when she's been actually really been made love to for quite some time and fondled, and she's feeling really, really warm and feeling loving, her vagina opens naturally and can just hold this for maybe that much. And that's enough for a man who hasn't got full erectile function to feel that he's got the benefit of having an absolute full experience of making love. Now, that's something very few people know.
That's true, yeah.
You know, so things like that, gentling, knowing, loving, caring enough to be able to say, you know, darling, I love you, and this is what I want, and I want it for both of us. I don't want it just for me, and I don't want it just for you, but let us have this, and let's share this together. We share meals, we go out, we have walk about on the beach, we do whatever else we do. Let's get out of the stuff now that males, females, you know, women only want this, men only want that, and start to enjoy life, enjoy each other. We're living in the most difficult and interesting of times in terms of the fact that life is the most important thing right now, nothing else. Survive. So survive and with enjoyment, and say this is a primary source of massive enjoyment, and it's much more fun than using a remote.
That's true, very true. And maybe start experimenting a bit, explore new avenues, maybe do some training. You can do tantra trainings and all sorts of interesting things that are really fascinating.
Young people need to go as well to these different workshops and go and learn and go and enjoy them. It doesn't matter if everybody else is 40 and you 60. It doesn't matter.
Makes no difference, actually. And also, talking about young people, I can just think when they start in a relationship or decide to get married to raise a family, maybe to just have a good few years for themselves to enjoy that intimacy and having only each other to prioritize and to make time for, because once you have children, it's a whole different ball game.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is, and it changes to something else again then. But remembering also that your husband comes first, your children come second.
That's true. That's true. I've often seen that in divorces with the people that I counsel, is that men often feel that once the children come, the women devote themselves to the children and they literally neglect the men in their lives. And it's often,
it's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. And it's often regarded by the women as the man becoming jealous of the children, which is also a possibility, but there's a very real thing of women just getting so overwhelmed by raising the children, taking care of them and being sleep deprived and all of that stuff, that they literally neglect their partners.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Oh, this is fantastic. So what sage advice would you give as an older woman, an experienced woman, a woman who's loved and who's had her heart broken and who's loved again and who's sexually fulfilled and evolved? What would you say to?
Just keep on until such time. You might find the right person in your life forever. You might not, but every relationship is going to bring you a value.
That's
and
true.
out of every relationship, look at the value and value that, and don't go looking for the negatives, but find the positives and say, what do you like about a person? What do you like about a situation? What do you like? Very important, and this is where I'm going to say it's the most important for, what do you like about yourself? And it's not about sitting there with a mirror to explore your bits. It's about what do you like about yourself, your holistic self, your eyes, your skin, your body, your labia, your breasts, your nipples, your stretch marks, whatever you've got, just love it. It's what you've got, all the holistic parts of you that make up this unique and amazing and very, very special individual that holds your name.
That's true. And something I've learned from my own experience also is being intimate with me is about the whole experience of being with me. It's not just about having sex with me. It's the whole being together with me in that moment, in that intimacy, on that specific level. And me as a person, as a whole, makes up that experience, not just my body.
Yes, and I mean, even like having candles at night in your bath. I still bath every night with candles. Have the best bedroom you've got. If you can afford one beautiful pillowcase that is pure cotton, indulge yourself.
Yes, and be romantic with yourself, by yourself. Why not?
Yes.
Why not? Love yourself. That's what you said. Yeah. Just love
yourself. You know, there's so many different things you can do that aren't going to be costly, because often it's no time and no money and no this. That's nonsense. You know, a glass of wine or any little thing. A couple of this beautiful spring flowers at the moment. Go and pick a few on the side of the road and put them in a vase on the table and have your breakfast by yourself if you are by yourself. But once you start to romance yourself, you will be romanced.
That's true, because that's what you put out there. That's what you're going to get back. Okay?
What you're putting out is what you're going to get back.
That's true. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Cheryl. It's amazing. It's so great that we can just talk about this openly, and I think we can spend days talking about this. Maybe we'll do it again sometime soon. But thank you so much for your input and appreciation for sharing parts of your own story.
It's a pleasure. And if I can feed back to you on that, Sinta, you're doing a wonderful job. I know what you do, and you do bring a lot of solace and care and love to people along this journey. And your life work, I haven't followed it, but I know you've been doing it for some time. So respect, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay. Do take care. Okay.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.